Hey everybody, welcome to the lab. This is episode 44. We actually know for a fact that it's 44 today. No hesitation. And today we're going to be talking about when your honeymoon phase from your goal setting and your resolutions dies. When that motivation goes away, when it's cold out for the first time and you have to get up. But before we dive into that, how you doing, Cody?
Doing pretty good. We launched the lab officially, so it is open to everybody who would like to join, and I'm super excited to get that, started and growing and building the community because so far the people who have joined are awesome, so I can't wait to get more people in there.
Hell yeah.
And that's basically all that's been on my mind is that, it's launched, it's live, we're ready. Let's do this.
Actually today, when this episode drops, our first official lab challenge with the lab community being live will be starting. So it's starting on Monday, January 9th. But don't fret, everybody. If you haven't got a chance to join or you're just tuning in now, you can still join. You can join at any time, but I would do that ASAP just so you don't fall too far behind in the challenge. Definitely can still make some serious effort and some serious headway towards your goals. But yeah, it's super exciting, and lots of fun, exciting things are coming from it. And it's only going to go up from here.
Yes, and just to say, for those of you not in the challenges, you don't have to participate in the lab challenges if you don't want to. You can just join for, the community and the resources. If you're not a competitive type of person, I get it. Not everybody is, so you don't have to, but it's fun, I encourage it. But, yeah. So what else is new with you, Kel?
Oh, not too much. We've been super focused on building the lab, so to have it live is really fun. But other than that, it's cold here, so my head's even colder than it was. Kind
Where's
of
your
adjusting
beanie?
to that. Yeah, I know. I need a beanie. But then I feel like I get sweaty, and then I have like a half beanie on, half off head, and it's just a mess. So I'm still getting used to it. But yeah, I've had some really, really nice workouts lately. I've been really connecting with the program recently, and it's been feeling great. So that's been
good.
nice.
Yeah, nothing like having a week of good workouts and just feeling like you're killing it. So for me, I'm still getting over the Olympia flu, as they call it. No one wants to call it COVID, but we'll say it what it is. It is COVID.
Yeah.
COVID is now the Olympia flu because no one is vaccinated over there.
Yeah.
So I'm still like, obviously I'm not contagious anymore. Like, it's over, but it's not, how you just get that, leftover cough and junk that likes to linger, and the energy levels are not so high because I didn't lose my taste and smell, but things tasted like shit. Like, salt was heightened. Everything tasted salty, even if it wasn't like super salty. That was the strangest thing to me. And so everything just tasted very off. But luckily, by the time my birthday came around, things were tasting normal again.
That's good.
So I got to eat sushi and have crumble cookie, which, just makes you feel awful. But worth it, you only have birthday once a year. And so it was good, low key. And my workouts are improving day after day, getting the energy levels back and feeling more hopeful for 2023. Still right in probably the honeymoon phase, like we were going to discuss. I feel like this episode is just as much for me as maybe everyone else because I'm anticipating myself losing that hope for 2023. So I'm trying to just make myself be like, just one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. Don't have to be perfect. Don't just go into fuck it mode,
That's all we're trying to do. Stay away from fuck it. But yeah. So should we jump into our topic today?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Cool. So what we're talking about today is kind of when that motivation runs out. So everybody likes to set New Year's goals. There's that big trope and like joke that everybody makes about how crowded the gyms are on January 1st. And then by February 1st, they're all cleared. And so typically what that is everybody gets so excited about their goals, their resolutions, and then all that motivation drops off just because it doesn't happen overnight. So the one thing that about fitness is that you have to be persistent. So we're gonna talk about how you can stay persistent even when that motivation fails you.
Yes.
So do you want to go ahead and kick it off? What's your first tip?
Sure. So my first tip, basically, I know hope is a great thing to have, but hoping that your motivation doesn't dip is not a good life plan because it will. So what you need to do is plan for the motivation to dip, plan for the honeymoon phase to end because it will. But I also want you to know that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your goal. That doesn't mean you don't want it anymore. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's just literally, it is the most normal thing to happen in your life. Like, it is normal. Everyone experiences it. So I always suggest during the parts of the motivation, during the honeymoon phase, to try to prepare for when that is no longer there. So that's creating systems, thanks James Clear for being the boss and giving us that wording. Create systems that are going to make sticking to your habits easier. So, get better at time management during your honeymoon phase. Start learning to meal prep during your honeymoon phase. Try to learn in the most efficient manner you can. Think of like, okay, I can do this now, but, can I do this on my toughest days, or how can I make it doable on my most busy, tough days? So essentially plan for things to get crazy. Plan to, create systems that still work even in times where your life is pure chaos.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people will hear that and then they're like, okay, what the hell? How do I do that if I don't know what I'm doing? And one of my favorite things to tell people is when you have time, do extra. So that doesn't mean if you have time, do an extra 2 miles on the treadmill or whatever. What I mean is if you have time, throw some food in the freezer. Like when you're meal prepping, buy a couple extra pounds of chicken or extra chili, whatever you're making, and freeze it. Make it and freeze it and have it so you can thaw it out when you're going to get crazy. Because life gets crazy. So when you have extra time, do a little bit of that extra work. Plan ahead and get things prepared. My favorite saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. So
yes,
just remember that.
This is very true. Yes. So yeah, I would say that, the honeymoon phase is all about planning. But also, I think it's always worth, journaling the process as well. I know that sounds very weird, but I know, so this year I've got my habit journal and I'm still waiting for my new one to come. I think it just got here today, but I was looking back through my habit journal and, it's also like really valuable to find other ways to improve aspects of your life or just see where your mindset was through the past year. And you can like carry that over to the other year or to the next week, like being like, oh, this day I felt this way. And this day I missed out and skipped these things. What can I do better? It's just like a learning lesson, right? So even if you're failing during the honeymoon phase, that doesn't mean that you're failing. It's just that you're learning, So expect things to be hard at first, even through the honeymoon phase. But you're also, it's a learning phase of what works, what doesn't. And if it doesn't work during high motivation, it's not going to work in areas of low motivation.
Right. And another thing I always like to help people with is to kind of like not avoid the honeymoon phase, but use it to your advantage. So don't be an all or nothing person, just because that tends to be really cyclical. So what I mean is people, when they have motivation, will go like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 6 days a week. are you going to be able to keep that up? Because if you're not going to be able to keep that up, I really wouldn't suggest starting it now. So you want to start small and then build upon things. So build when know that you're doing it because you're able to, not because you have this different picture of who you are in your head. Just be realistic with it. So if instead of maybe setting your sights on 5 days a week, and then if you miss one of them, you're like, oh, fuck it, I just ruined my whole day. You want to rethink it and be like, 3's a win. If I get 5, cool, but 3's a win. So just make sure that you're keeping those kinds of things in mind when you're in that honeymoon phase, because you can use it to your advantage, but it can also be very detrimental to your future self if you get really tied into that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense.
Sure.
It was a little rambly.
It did to me because I can definitely be an all or nothing type of person, or, black and white type of thing, and type of thinking. And so I, started my habit journal. I wrote down my habits, and I've been, checking off things that I've been doing. And I've been having to fight myself because I'm finding that I'm not starting all or nothing. I'm kind of just transitioning into my habits, and that is not my normal. And I was like, it was kind of fucking with my head, and I'm just like, what is my problem? Like, I'm getting there, but the start of January has not been ideal for me. But then I thought for a second, I'm like, you know what though? For me, I feel like that's progress, because I'm usually like on it, and then until I fuck up, and then I'm not so on it, and then I just stop tracking my habits, and I'm like, it's fine. So it's I'm doing things backwards this year, I guess. So maybe that's what I need to do. I don't know, but it's okay to not start out 0 to 100. You can transition into your habits and goals as well. There was something else it's like, for example, if you have one flat tire, you're not just going to slash all like the rest of your 3 tires and be like, fuck it, I'm definitely not going anywhere now. Like, it's one mistake is not going to derail you. You're going to fix the flat, and you're going to keep driving. Okay? That's how it works.
Yep. Absolutely. And it goes the same with food. Like, so I hear people all the time, and I'm sure you're very familiar with this too, Cody, is like, well, I fucked up on Friday night, so I just said I'll start again on Monday. And while you do plan on starting again, what I would highly suggest is to get back on the horse the same day or on Saturday. And that's just because it's a thing in your mind. So it's a psychological trick that you're playing on yourself, because that's going to happen over and over and over again. You just got to be real with yourself and not let those let that landslide down into to kill your whole weekend. Because weekend, like, if you start on Friday in a fuck it mode, that's 3 days. So you're doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's 3 out of 7, which isn't great. 1 out of 7 is not too shabby.
Yeah.
So just remember that, and don't let one mistake completely shut you down. Just and just get back on the horse as soon as possible.
Yes.
I've even heard before some people will break their days into like quarters. So if they screw up in the morning, they're like, okay, well, it's done at noon, and I'm back on board. If that's what it takes, and you're really trying to break a cyclical way of thinking about things, or if you really struggle with perfectionism, I think that's a really good place to start. It adds up your wins way quicker, because if you have 4 quarters in a day, that's 4 wins if you just make it through one day. So that's pretty good. The more wins you can get under the belt, the easier the losses feel.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was thinking about that 4 quarter. I think it might have been Gretchen Rubin that that was her quote, where it's like, think of the day split up into 4 quarters. But just because you mess up 1 quarter doesn't mean you throw the whole day away. It's like you can start again in the next quarter. And that I found super helpful for me, because I am that type of person, who's like perfectionist. The whole day has to be right, or I'm just going to throw it out. So it will create this system where you are very much so reducing the damage that you could do, because going from, Friday night to the whole weekend, a lot of people do that. And those, it's the same people that are like, I'm not seeing progress. I don't know what's wrong. Like, I'm tracking my food and I'm in a calorie deficit. But then you're like, but what about Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday? Those days count too. So yeah, you just gotta be aware and honest with yourself. That's obviously the key to success for most things, because if you are not able to be aware, and if you're not able to be honest with yourself, there's a lot of things that can just kind of slip under the rug and not be aware of, and then it can affect your progress.
And I'm sure a lot of our listeners, like, this is not really new information for any of our listeners, but it's a different. You just need to find the way to think about it that it connects with you internally. Just because if it's not connecting with you, you're not really going to be able to grasp the whole information. So, like, for example, I was talking to my mom the other day. She's always struggled with her weight, and my mom is in her mid-60s, so she's very much a product of, like, 80s diet culture, 80s, early 90s diet culture. She was 100% a slim, fast person and all of those things. And I think my mom's tried almost every fad diet under the sun. And I was talking to her one day, and I'm like, and I just had to break it down a little bit, because I'm like, because she quit smoking when I was like 10 or something, and she's like, I was able to quit smoking so easily. She's like, I don't understand why I can't translate that to this weight loss and, like, getting my diet under control. And the difference is that people have to eat. Like, there is no choice. You can't cold turkey out of a bad diet. You have to learn how to moderate yourself. You have to learn how to do portion control. You can't cold turkey quit food across the board like you can cigarettes. So it's a lot different. It's like, for example, like, if you wanted to compare a food addiction to something along the lines of, like, a drug addiction, and by no means am I an expert at addiction, but, like, you wouldn't ever just give heroin addicts, like, you can have it if you snort it, you can't have it if you inject it. It doesn't work like that, right? So
what about anal insertion? Does that count?
That's a different story. But in all seriousness, you just food is it's really hard. And I think we need to let people, like, know that it is hard. Like, we're not trying to say that just because we figured it out most days that it's easy for us. It's not. So you're not alone in that desperation of, like, I just can't get my head around this. It's all about connecting it with your internal dialogue and learning how to adapt it to your life.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll step on my soapbox now.
I don't know. Just to kind of piggyback off of, addiction when it comes to food and stuff, how it's hard because you can't just stop eating. That's a huge reason why it is so hard. But I will say, this may sound kind of extreme. It's like, you don't have to, like, you can't just stop eating, but you can stop eating the foods that you can't stop eating, if that makes sense. Like, those foods that have no breaks, you can do things to help yourself by keeping those out of the house, making that very inconvenient to obtain, or at least more inconvenient than not, and try to make, eating healthier more convenient. Keep those fruits and veggies right in plain view. Keep fruit on the table, the counter, whatever, right in plain sight, so it's always there for you to grab if you want some. So just little tricks that you can do. So it's like, yeah, you can't just stop eating, but you can stop eating the shit that, like, you binge on and makes you just, not be able to stop eating it. The food crack.
Right. Well, and when I was in, my previous career, I was in quality assurance in a factory, and one of our big things with trying to get people to do what's right as opposed to what's wrong, based on the standards that we had, was our saying was always make the right choice the easiest choice, right? So what that means is adding those extra barriers to the wrong choice, but also, like, I know we have some ADHD listeners, and you all have what is object impermanence? Is that what it is?
I don't know.
think so. So it's when you if something isn't in front of you, it just ceases to exist in your head because you don't see it. And so a lot of people who have ADD and ADHD struggle with that because they'll lose things all the time because if it's not right in front of them, it just doesn't exist anymore. So what I tell people, especially people who are trying to diet, is put everything in that middle shelf as soon as you open the fridge door at eye level and make it easy. Make it sure it's already washed, that you don't have to do anything with it. If it's something that you eat warm, make sure all you have to do is put it in the microwave. Make it as dumb as possible. I also explained this to my mom, is like, I stay on track simply because it's easier to stay on plan than it is to go off plan. I have all of my food pre-weighed, pre-cooked. I just have to measure it out. Well, sometimes it's already weighed, but if I was to go off plan, I would have to order food. I would have to find what I wanted, and it's just too much effort, and I'm lazy. So,
but also, so I have ADHD. I didn't even know. Like, thanks for that lesson for my own sake. Man, I've done some weird shit. Like the other day, I was trying to feed the dogs. So I get their food bowls. I put it on the counter. I'm about to feed them, and suddenly I decide I need to plug my headphones in. So I just go and I plug my headphones in, and then I walk away. And then, like, Des is like, "Did you feed the dogs?" I was like, "Oh shit!"
That's like exactly the same thing.
Yeah. So, but it also can work in your favor because if something is out of sight, out of mind, you could do that with the junk food. Absolutely. So I, do my best to just keep foods in my house that I can't just go ham on. So, out of sight, out of mind. I don't think about it if it's not in front of me. If there's other healthier choices, my brain's automatically going to go to that. So already, as you suggested, yeah, it's like you can also play it in your favor. It doesn't have to be like this thing where it holds you back. It is obviously a lot easier when you are able to remember and not feel so scattered. But you can do things to make it easier.
It's all about finding your style. So, like, I am a self-admitted lazy person. So I have my girlfriend put everything that is like a treat food. Like if I have saving something for like my treat meal, I'll have her put it up high so I can't reach it. So I'd have to get the step stool out if I really wanted it, and that's just too much effort for me. So I'm not gonna get it, or I'll have her hide something.
Humiliating.
Yeah, and so I won't get it because I'm like, I would have to get the step stool out, and like on prep, I'll put the step stool in the basement. So like, not only would I have to get the step stool, but I would have to walk all the way down the stairs, grab the step stool, walk all the way back up. So it's all about like hacking your own brain, and you just have to kind of be real with yourself, be honest, and really kind of dig in. And it's not fun work, but it's also kind of hilarious and entertaining to do at the same time.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what would work for you, ask your closest friends, your parents, or your significant other, because they're well aware, I guarantee.
Yeah. Just brace yourself, because it's probably not going to be easy here. So it's essentially like, learn yourself, be honest with yourself, know who you are, know your little quirks and maybe your bad habits, bad tendencies. As you say, you are like a self-described lazy person, which is not true for sure, but also I get that. I'm the same way. For example, like I bought this thing for my office to put, it's like a filing cabinet, and I can put my printer on it and shit. I know printers still exist, crazy, right?
I don't have one.
And I've had it for like a month, and I haven't even put it together. So, because life just gets crazy, and you're like, when do I have time to stop and put this fucking thing together? So it's like little things in life I just ignore until I can't stand it anymore. Like I had these lights up here in my kitchen; those were out for like 3 months. And I just didn't touch it because I was like, I don't have time to think about it. I don't care. Finally, Des went and changed them for me. So it's just like little things like that. When you're overwhelmed, you just let things go. So it's kind of the same. Like if you make it hard enough, chances are you are gonna just not gonna go for it.
This is a little off topic, but I saw a person on TikTok who had a really hard time drinking water. So they attached a Tamagotchi to like the thing, and every time it beeped to take care of the Tamagotchi, they're like, "Oh, I need to drink water," and and they did it, and it worked. And so it's like, so what I do if I need to remember something, I'll put it in my walkway. So like I'll put it in so I would be tripping over it if I walked past it. That way I pick it up, and so it's all about creating a system that works for you, and kind of really personalizing it to get these little habits down, because it's the little things that really build up to make the big changes. And I know you've heard us talk about that a gazillion times. So
yeah, I saw this meme that just reminded me. You probably saw it too. I think it was like that 30-something Instagram where it was like being an adult is like being a real life Tamagotchi. You just have to like make sure to feed yourself and water yourself and all that stuff. I'm like, God damn, that's so true. It's not as fun anymore.
No, but if that's what it takes, they still make Tamagotchis. She had a link in her bio to the Tamagotchi that you can still buy. That's
crazy.
The Tamagotchi you have to take care of is yourself.
Yeah, that's so weird to think about. It's almost like training as a child to take care of things, but it's just yourself.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh man. Yeah. Any other ideas as to what to do when the freshness of the? Sorry, there's a jet flying over right now. I don't. Okay, that never happens. Hopefully, there's nothing.
Until they crash into your apartment.
Right. Bye, guys. See you later. Catch that on video. Yeah. Any other tips for when the honeymoon phase starts to end and the freshness of the new year fades and people forget what they set out to accomplish?
So this is actually from James Clear. I read it. I'm rereading the Habits book and Atomic Habits, but I read something that he put that was every day that you show up for yourself, you're keeping a promise to yourself, right? So all your resolutions are promises that you've made to yourself. Like, this is what I want. I'm going to work to get it. That's a promise to yourself, even though it's not, I promise myself, blah, blah, blah. But the way you kind of need to think about it is that the more and more you don't follow through, the more and more you slack on your goals, even though you said you want them, the more you're showing yourself that you're losing trust in yourself. So you're not trusting yourself more and more every time you don't show up. And it really hit me because really that's who we have to count on, right? We need to be able to count on ourselves in our word. So really think about that. And I also am a big fan of mantras. So like at the beginning of the year, I like to set like a mantra or pick a mantra to kind of go through the year. And it's something that I can help cling to when times get hard. I did it during prep. I had a whole thing. Like I picked a new one for prep specifically. And I kind of really like that, and that has been helping me, and I think it can help other people. My last one is a gratitude list. Especially, I've still been very affected by Chris Bumstead's speech, and I recently watched his podcast with his friend who had cancer and who died. And that whole living in the presence and in the moment really kind of struck a chord on me. And so I've been really diving into gratitude a lot more recently. And so the fact that I'm well, that I'm healthy, and that I can go to the gym makes me feel like I really, really should. And so I know that really helps me. Gratitude has always been something that I go back to when my motivation fades. So those are like my fast few that I really like, that help me a lot.
Yeah, no, those are great. Yeah, Gratitude is definitely a good one, and I feel like it's rough, and I admit it's like the last thing I go to, but at the same time, as soon as I get there, it always works. So it's like
I
maybe I
think
should
that's
move that
probably why
up from
it's
the
always
list.
the last one you go to because you don't really want it to work.
You're just like, you know what, fuck this all. But then I mean, there are times when it comes to things that happen in your life where sometimes you just need to feel it, whether it's like being
Yeah,
angry or
absolutely.
sad or whatever. So then you feel that, you get over it, you start a gratitude list, and you move on. But
Exactly.
yeah, the trust, or like the showing up for yourself, that you're keeping promises to yourself, I feel like is huge. I feel as though a lot of the times when there's anxiety around certain goals that are set, it's because there's past times where you didn't keep your promises to yourself or show up for yourself. But I think it's, the more you do it, the more you start to trust yourself. So it's like if you start with smaller goals, so you can begin that trust process again with yourself. It's kind of like if with a partner relationship, like if they lose your trust somehow, it's not going to just come back instantly. It's got to be small steps over time. Action, like show yourself that you can follow through for yourself. Show yourself you can complete these tasks and follow through on your promises to yourself. Eventually you will start to trust yourself again. And also, as far as keeping promises to yourself, how can you expect other people to show up for you and keep their promises to you if you can't keep your own promises to yourself? So it's just a little food for thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's along kind of the same vein, but I just lost it. Hold on, it'll come back. Um, no, it's gone. But I do think keeping your promises to yourself is so important, and that's what it is. So one of my things, the thing that almost always will spur me into action. And I'll kind of tell an example and then kind of dive into it. So, for example, so I used to be really unhappy in my job. I didn't like how my boss talked to me. I hated going there every day. I would circle the block until it was like I was almost going to be late just because I didn't want to park and go into my job. I hated it so much. And one day I was always bitching about it. So I was always bitching to my mom. I was always bitching to Maddie. I was always bitching to everybody about how much I hated my job. And then like one day I'm like, I cannot bitch to these people anymore if I'm unwilling to take action about it. Yeah. It's kind of like a shit or get off the pot situation. Yeah. Like you either need to suck it up and be like, this is how it is. I have to be okay with it and I cannot talk about it anymore. Or I have to do something. And I've kind of spread that theory and that mindset to my whole life. So I do it in every situation now. So which kind of makes me an asshole sometimes, but it kind of doesn't. So, like the other day, well, no, not the other day. It was like months ago now. There was a guy, I play sand volleyball at this bar. There was a guy with a Confederate flag on the back of his shirt. And it was voting day, so I actually remember what day it was. It was November. It was in voting day. And he had a flag on his shirt, and I was pissed. It was election day, so I was already kind of like grouchy. And I confirmed with everybody else because I don't wear my glasses, so my sight is questionable. And this is a long story, but it's worth it. And eventually, I'm like, yeah. So we all confirmed that that's what it is, and they're like, oh, we'll just leave it alone, leave it alone. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna fucking leave it alone. I can't bitch about something if I'm not willing to take action on it. And so I went up to him after the game. I'm like, dude, that shirt is fucked up. And why would you wear that? And I like confronted him, and he made fun of me kind of. And I am very bad at confrontation, so I was really shaky, and I was really trying not to cry. And because sometimes if I get like too much emotion, it just happens. And so I said something, and I was like fucking proud of myself for saying something. And it was worth it. And so I've really just taken that philosophy and ran with it. So if I don't like how my body looks, or if I don't know, if I had any other kind of situation, and I'm just not going to bitch about it. I'm allowed to bitch about it if I'm willing to do something to change it. If I'm not willing to do something to change it, then I have to accept it. And it's kind of like a hard ass way of thinking about it, but it really gets me motivated and pushing. So maybe it'll help someone out there.
No, yeah, I think that's a really good, perspective shift. Instead of, because bitching about it isn't going to change it. So you're just going to be on the same page, still bitching about it like 3 years later. So yeah, you got to be willing to do something about it if you want to, create change.
Or it's not important, and that's fine too. But
yeah, it's like some people just like to bitch. If that is you, that's fine. But maybe save your partner and your friends and like keep that to your journal after about a year, because pretty soon they're gonna smack you and be like, "Shut the fuck up." Maybe do something about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So if it's bothering you enough to actually piss you off enough to bitch, then it might be worth looking into taking some action.
Yeah, and it takes time. I stayed in a job I hated for 4 years, and I bitched about it regularly until finally, I was working towards leaving it, but it takes some time. So sometimes it's good to have an outlet when you need it if you can't.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Leave at a certain point, but you're planning on it. You're taking action steps. So I feel like you're allowed to bitch through the process.
Oh, absolutely.
Because eventually it's gonna stop. But it's like, you got to be doing something, or else take that away. Stop bitching. Do something,
right.
Or stop bitching.
And it doesn't have to be huge action. You don't have to start a war. You can just start planning or start thinking about it. Start making small changes. It doesn't have to be massive. But any kind of movement forward is movement forward. So
yeah. So yeah.
I think that was my biggest one, and I've been very ranty today. So sorry about that.
Oh no. I mean, it's all good. So I mean, these are all very good tips. It sounds like, you have a lot of good advice to be given. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can think of to, I think my biggest advice is just like, just expect for the motivation to end and plan for it, and just know, it doesn't mean that you don't want it still. Things are just hard. I'm starting off the year by reading The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Reading, I mean listening to the Audible version.
We call it whistling.
That's it's just like I can't sit down and read these days. I've just like got to be moving, so
I get it.
But I think, I don't know if I saw it on his Instagram post or if this is something that I heard in the first chapter. But this is going to be hard. But I think he emphasized that there's like there's suffering, but then there's purposeful suffering. And it's like, there is always going to be suffering or, discomfort and pain. But as long as there's purpose behind it, obviously it's not going to feel as intense. But that doesn't mean you're not going to feel that, So this is change is always going to be hard. There's always going to be some amount of discomfort involved. There's always going to be, some sort of hardship to get through. But just keep in mind your why, and that's going to keep pushing you forward.
Yep. And just keep at it. Eventually, it does feel easier. Your muscle memory starts kicking in. You start feeling that appreciation towards the routine and the activities you have to do, and it does get easier. Would I call it easy? No. Easier? Yes. So it does get better, and that sounds corny, but you just kind of gotta get over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, as corny as it is, that saying is very true. It does get better. Just gotta ride it out. Ride the roller coaster, but that's life. So get used to it. All right.
So should we shift into your power talk?
Yeah. All right. So power talk time. Let's see. Okay. So this is a quote from Ray Bradbury. I don't even know who that is, but
it's an author.
Yeah. So action is hope. At the end of the day, at the end of each day, when you've done your work, you lie there and think, well, I'll be damned, I did this today. It doesn't matter how good it is or how bad or how bad you did it. At the end of the week, you'll have a certain amount of accumulation. At the end of the year, you look back and say, I'll be damned, it's been a good year. So I like that one because it kind of falls into the line of not being perfectionist about things, because it still accumulates, right? It still adds up. So even if you don't do something perfect, it's still going to contribute to getting you closer to your goal. And especially think about a year from now, all of the action steps that you took, whether they were successful or not, it's going to get you somewhere. Maybe you missed a few habits that you wanted to do like numerous days, but doing them at all is still going to move you forward. And it's always fun looking back and seeing everything that has accumulated throughout the year. So basically, biggest encouragement of don't try to be perfect. Do the best you can. Give it your best effort. Like that is, the biggest, consistently giving your best effort is what's going to move you forward. And one of the things, I have a Post-it note that's on my computer right here, and it just says win the day. And I keep that there because it keeps me present and thinking, like, it keeps me away from thinking about what I'm going to be doing tomorrow or like how bad I fucked up yesterday or something like that. So if I look at that and it says win the day, it just makes me think of like, okay, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, but I'm going to do everything else that's in my control. I'm still going to win the day. And then you just focus on winning each day moving forward. And hopefully it'll get closer to your goal.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Sweet. So, join the lab. Please.
Love that transition. Great segue. Join the lab. We're just starting the challenge.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And there are challenge prizes, by the way, if you need more incentive. It's just going to be fun times. And it's a good way to start off the year. So do that. All the links will be in the description, or you can go to www.yourfitlab.com to sign up. You can sign up after the challenge starts. So the challenge starts Monday, but if you forget, you can join at any time. You can, jump in late if you really want to. You don't have to join like at a certain point of each month. It's just easier if you join before the challenge starts, but you can still join even if you miss the cutoff. And then next month we'll have a new challenge if you want to participate in that one. So, yeah, that's about it. Anything else, Cal?
Nope, that's it. Hope everybody has a great second week of the 2023, and let's make it a good one.
Yep. Peace out, guys.